All right, so you worked on a POGO activity. Yesterday, and POGO stands for Process-Oriented Guided Inquiry Learning. And so it's inquiry learning means it asks you questions and you have to figure out how to get to the answer, but it's a guided step-by-step process. How do I solve these kinds of problems? So when you get a POGO activity, I think you'll notice when you see other POGO activities, and you've had them before, I think you'll recognize them. They tend to focus on how to do something, and they take you through it step by step.
We need to know this.
Considering I told you yesterday it's going to be on the test tomorrow, and I told you that and we spent a week covering the material, and we're going to do a lab tomorrow on it as well. I would say, yeah, that would be a good idea.
All right.
Was that good enough sarcasm? Did it come through, or should I redo my sarcasm?
We didn't ask for the sarcasm.
No, but it's my way of venting, so I appreciate you putting up with my sarcasm. So, POGO. Someone close the door, please. POGO, this activity you should have completed it by now. Honestly, you had all day in class yesterday, or most of the day. And then you had last night. So you should be mostly done. Already 3 people come to me and said, oh, well, I don't know what this activity looks like. Another one says, were we supposed to get this done today? When is this due? Another one says she knew it was due today, but she had other family obligations, and she was wondering if she had time to turn in tomorrow. And only one person actually came to me with questions concerning the POGO activity. So any answers you get today, unfortunately, what it's going to do is it's going to decrease your learning. Anytime you get answers, anytime somebody tells you an answer, it's a wasted opportunity. Is that clear? Because you're losing. It's not going to help you on the test. You're going to look at me with that sassy attitude, and you're going to look at me and say, this test, you never taught it to us, it's too hard. And what it was, guys, you need to focus on preparing for the exam by actually working through the knowledge and owning your understanding. You have to own it. If you don't own it, it's not yours. I understand this material. Me telling you the answer is irrelevant. You have to own the understanding. The only way you can do that is if you work it out yourself. It used to be we focused on giving you that opportunity for homework, but I don't do that. I give it to you in class. So when I give you that time in class to work it out and ask questions in class, most of you have trouble doing homework for whatever reason. You really need to focus on taking advantage of every moment you can in class. Okay, enough lecturing on that. Any questions, any specific questions for those of you that did do the homework for whatever the assignment yesterday in class or during school or before you left or after school? What questions do you have before I move on? Yeah, go ahead.
Number 24, I kind of didn't understand what it was saying. Maybe I should say what it was asking.
All right, so let's take a look at number 24. Yeah, I do. Let's see if we can find the tissue. I've told you 3 times where it is, at least. If there's none, then there is none. If it's not over there, it's not there, it's not there. I don't have it. You can go to the restroom. Number 24 says, the street drug ecstasy can lead to Some people haven't even read it. You notice? Yeah, you see how it's always surprising to me how you can tell quickly who's actually done what they're supposed to or not. Number 24, the question on the sheet says the street drug ecstasy can lead to repetitive behaviors such as drinking up to 20 liters of water over a 2-hour period of time. This can lead to brain edema and death. Explain what is happening at the level of brain cells and include the role of osmosis in the process. So what do you think does anybody know what brain edema is?
It's just a bit like nerve damage in
Good guess. It is damaged, but yeah.
When I get mine, it says something like brain swelling.
Good. So somebody looked it up. So if you don't know what a word means, right, you're confused. Looking it up is the perfect answer. You have the entire world's knowledge at your fingertips, literally. Right? Now it's going to be hard. You have to sift through junk information, right? So it's always good to check and double check your information. But you have a brain. It's a really bad drawing of a brain, but there it is. It has different lobes. What happens to the brain with the word edema is swelling. Your brain swells. And the reason that causes brain damage is you have something called a skull, right? And the skull is bone. I hope you know that. Some of us are more hard-headed than others, but you have this is not malleable, right? Your brain is swelling. It's going to increase pressure as it swells into the bone, and you start to get brain damage. The way doctors would solve this, if you went into the hospital with edema, bad swelling, they would literally cut a hole in your brain, in your skull, and let your brain ooze, swell out of it. So, I don't know how big a hole they know better than I, but the bottom line is they need to relieve the pressure. Otherwise, the cells start to die. Is that clear? You start to choke off. What happens is the blood vessels in your brain start to squeeze shut because there's so much pressure. So edema is no good. It's swelling. Why? So when we're looking at a neuron looks something like, really, again, horrible drawing. Let's not judge the teacher. Thank you very much. So you have an axon. This is a brain cell, typical, I don't know about typical, but it's certainly a type of nerve cell. And nerve cells compose your brain and your spinal cord, your peripheral nervous system. Again, horrible drawing, but let's live with it. It has a nucleus, a nucleolus, a Golgi body, endoplasmic reticulum. It has vesicles. It has mitochondria. It has mitochondria all the way down. It has these things called nodes of Ranvier. It has Schwann cells that create other cells, supporting cells that create myelin. It's a fat around it. And this fat around each nerve cell helps insulate the nerve. And then that way that lets the nerve send signals down we'll talk. I know usually I don't even have enough time to cover this in a normal course of a year, but the nerve cell, this is how your brain cell works. So how these brain cells change under the condition in this scenario that they pose to you. You have edema. What's causing the edema? What's causing these cells to swell? Water. How'd you know it was water? What made you think it was water? So there's some key words here, right? Edema, we figured out was swelling, right? And we're looking at the word osmosis, and at this point, everybody should know that that's the movement of water. So because of water, this thing is swelling. Okay. It's going to swell because of water. All right. So help me. What is, if it's swelling, where's water going? Is it going, if the cell is swelling, is it going into the blood? Let's remember, I love the way you're thinking, so let's think about it. Remember, a blood vessel is going to be either an artery or vein. Let's go ahead and draw it this way. It's going to be near the cell. Usually at this level, probably a capillary, could be an artery, but let's just call it a capillary. Inside there is going to be these red blood cells. They're carrying oxygen for the cell, this can allow the cell to get, and it's going from the flow of blood is coming from the heart. It's going back to the heart, right? We talked about that. So if this cell is swelling, is it going into the blood? No. It's leaving the blood. And where's it going? Into the cell. Right? So it's going into the cell. So water is going into the cell. The flow of water is. And that's making it swell. And that's making all the cells swell, all the tissues swell. And we talked about this. It happens during a woman's period. Sometimes, depending on the woman, it could happen when you get punched in the head. It could happen when you hurt your ankle or your wrist. Swelling happens, right? And in this case, though, there's no trauma, right? What's the scenario say? They took a drug that made them do something over and over and over and over again because they're kind of stuck on repeat, right? Because that's what that drug tends to do to people. They get into this repeated behavior and they just keep doing it over and almost like someone on rerun, right? Hitting rerun on it. And they keep drinking too much what? Water. So on a big scale, this is at the microscopic scale, this cell. But when we're talking about the bigger scale, you have this, and by the way, this is not a good scale because these cells would be much bigger. They would be almost as, compared to each other, just for the record. So you got this person, yes, it's a stick drawing, deal with it, is going to continue to take these glasses of water over and over and over again. How much water did they take in? Too much, but specifically 20 liters. That's a lot of water. That's a lot of water. So what did they do to their blood? Because all that water went into their blood. What did that do to the blood? Yeah, well, it definitely probably made a lot of their blood cells swell up and pop. That didn't kill them right away, though. That would make them anemic. But it's so, yeah, their blood cells are swelling because there's a lot of water. Why? Why are their blood cells swelling? What is the solution here? So blood. Is it hypertonic? If it were it would be hypotonic. Good. I love that you guys got the vocabulary, so that's good. See, that's why we do this kind of activity, so we can work this out, right? So if it were hypertonic, if the blood were hypertonic, that would mean what?
High.
High what?
High solution.
High concentration or high solute. Solute is high. But there's only two options, either the solute or the solvent. The solute in any solutions, which is why they had you define solution first. You either have a solute or you have a solvent. In this case, the solute is all the stuff that's in blood, right? Sugar, whatever, salt. The solvent is water. What are we adding in this scenario? 20 liters of water, right? So what are we adding to this? We're adding solvent. And high solute makes it hypertonic. So hypotonic is what? Low concentration, where solute is low. All right, so that's solute is low. So if I'm adding that much water, which is a lot, 20 liters is a ridiculous amount of water. If you have a solid, you're adding that much water to the blood, to the tissues, to the surrounding, the fluid surrounding the tissue. Then I'm looking at my pie chart, right? This is my pie chart. It's a horrible pie chart. I wish I had better artistic skills. But I'm looking at my pie chart. And normally, maybe this is the solute concentration. And the rest of this is water. Oops. So the rest of this is water, normally, right? What did I just do when I drank 20 liters? Yeah.
Won't that make it less concentrated?
That's right. It does make it less concentrated. So yeah, because what am I doing to the water in this pie chart? I'm adding more water. So compared as a percent, remember pie charts are looking at percentages, right? Remember that. Pie chart's not looking at absolute value. You're looking at percentages here. As I increase water, I'm going to decrease the percentage of solute, right? Decrease, I don't know by how much. It all depends on the situation. But what's going to happen is this solute slice is going to get much smaller. So what's happening? Did it become less that, as more than one person said, what's happening is the water's increasing in concentration, water's increasing concentration, but the solution is becoming less solute, so the solution is hypotonic. The solution became hypotonic by adding water. Didn't get rid of sugar or salt. No, that's not gone, but it did make them, it did make the solution, I don't know what I'm writing anymore. It's crazy. It did make the solution less concentrated because you're adding more water. Look, I keep telling you Koolaid, right? And kids keep blowing me off like he's talking nonsense, he's wasting my time. Look, it all goes back to Koolaid. You let your little brother or sister make the Koolaid on a hot summer day. You know what they're going to do? They're going to put 5 cups of sugar into your Koolaid. Do you want to drink that? Are you going to drink? You gonna drink that uber sweet? Wow, you're one of those people. So let's assume that they add so much sugar you really can't drink it. Even you, with your sweet tooth, just can't stomach that much sugar in your Kool-Aid. How do you make it more tolerable? You add more water. See, you know what to do. When you add water, what do you do to the concentration of the Kool-Aid? Dilute it. And if you wanted it more concentrated, your little brother, sister didn't put enough sugar in it, so it's not as sweet as you like, it's not as concentrated as you like, you would add more sugar, right? More solute.
Slap you for being dumb.
Well, if you're the oldest, hopefully you're not getting slapped, but we'll see. But anyways, when solution became hypotonic, the solution became hypotonic when that person taking that ecstasy drug, and by the way, that is a side effect of ecstasy. You start to do things repetitively. You're literally unstuck. So really, these drugs that people take recreationally have real serious impacts on your thinking, guys. People will tell you it's not a big deal. It's gonna make you feel good. I'm warning you. There are some serious side effects. Otherwise we'd all be taking them. All right. So water is in the blood, and what happens is there's too much water. Of course, water is going to go from its high to its low, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so water's going to go into the cells here. You're right, and they would swell up. The blood cells would swell up, and yes, they might even pop. That's a good point. But they're asking you about the tissues in the brain. Well, the water's going to come in here. He or she's drinking so much water that water's going to leave the blood, and it's going to go into all the cells. It's just going to keep flooding the tissues with water, and all the cells are going to swell up and swell up and swell up, and we're going to get something called edema. All right, you're going to get something called edema, and that causes brain damage because there's a buildup of pressure that literally shuts down the blood vessels, and you don't get oxygen to the brain, and the brain dies, or cells swell up so much that they burst. So that happens too. And that's the answer to that question. It's more detailed than you needed to answer. The easiest answer, if you would have answered something like, by adding that much water, you've diluted the blood and the tissue and the surrounding the cells. That made the outside of the cells hypotonic. The water then went from its high to its low, so it went from outside to inside. That swelled up the cells. That's the answer to number 24. But I thought I would give you enough background that you'd understand where they're coming from. Any other questions? 25 says a diagram shows a single-celled organism called the paramecium, and we've looked